Well, I can just tell you my experiences from childhood. Um, my parents moved to Atlanta in '72, and they were trying to make a decision on whether or not to move to California, Florida, or Canada. Strange choices. Um, they came here to visit, and I think it was around the time of a homecoming, and they stayed at Pascal's, and I just ran across photographs that they had never seen that I developed of that time when they first made the visit. And they met a Reverend Tobin at Pascal's, and they were sitting down and were having a conversation. He walked up to them and talked to them because they looked like they were strangers. They pulled out maps, and he showed them Southwest Atlanta. And my mother immediately after that, with his wife, Miss Tobin, she flew up to New Jersey and helped my mother pack. And we moved straight to Atlanta. I grew up in Cascade. I grew up between Cascade and Camelton. I went to elementary school, Cascade Elementary School, L.O. Kimberly. I went to a Mason school that was off of Bankhead, and we lived at the Paysetters. What it meant for me, I guess for my parents, was that we grew up in a very isolated part of South Jersey, and there weren't a lot of people. We were the people. We lived on the same street with all my cousins and family members, and the thing about Southwest Atlanta, which was like a interesting transition, was that, you know, people would say since we were coming from New Jersey, they thought we were from the country, from the city, but we were actually from the Garden State, the Garden part. And growing up in Atlanta was a whole different experience of like seeing Black politicians, doctors, people doing things. And it was a different experience and segregated in a different way in the North. And I think that, you know, when we came to Atlanta, there were certain things that were happening. I think myself being born in '68, you know, the year King was assassinated, be it coming here in '72, that was a whole different energy too. And so I think that we grew up in a community that was tight, like the community that I grew up where I was born in New Jersey. It's very similar. It has influenced me. You know, I was a product of the Neighborhood Art Center. It's a sensibility. I think there is a sensibility, a certain kind of respect for the past and people, and understanding what it means to, you know, one of the hardest things to do is make an art is to believe in what you made and feel good about it. Sometimes artists feel very insecure about their stuff, but I think that growing up in Atlanta has kind of given me a certain kind of power or a certain level of pride. I won't just put anything out there that wouldn't represent my community in a way. I feel like I make work that speaks about my existence. Growing up in a community, so many artists that were here, so many artists came through. I think about my experiences in middle school. I think it was around the time it was like National Black Arts Festival existing. There were different artists coming in, and they would often stay with their friends, and then I would kind of cross paths. And, you know, it was more like, you know, and then I think about Atlanta University and the annuals. Thinking about all those artists that have come through there, from like Hale Woodruff to Bearden. I think one of the first two artists I met, I was introduced to by my mother taking me to shows, was James Vanderzee and Jacob Lawrence. And you know, it's a lot. You know, so many people have come through here. I mean, from W.B. Du Bois to you know, just that whole experience, I felt like we were at the center of the world. And when we go to other cities, I didn't really understand the black communities in other cities. You know, I was good friends with, which was nice to have in a strange way, those collaborations that I would do with Taurus Mentine. And now he travels around and plays with a lot of different people, and he's done like, you know, all kinds of music, you know. So it's nice to be able to catch those sounds and hear those sounds when I'm in other parts of the world. But to be able to, I mean, I always saw like the South, and I would say the South, but Southwest Atlanta in particular was always the lab for me. If I had a lab, and that's where my lab is, and that is my studio. So everything around me breathes it. I mean, you know, my work kind of takes it in and pushes it out. I think it's changing. I remember going to, you know, black doctors and dentists, and, you know, that environment of people around us. I mean, I think it's one of the things of like integration. I don't think we were ever really truly integrated amongst each other in the proper way. I think that what it did was create a level of community type, and I think as time things have changed, that community kind of disappears in a way, but I think it's still present, very much present. So yeah, I think I see it. I guess I look forward to the black gentrification.